Well, you entered the White House in one of the worst times of the U.S. history, the financial crisis, and two ongoing wars, and also the polarization. I can say that President Biden, your vice president and longtime friend, has taken over office in a very similarly difficult time. Like COVID-19, possible economic crisis, and even more polarized Capitol Hill. So is there any advice that you can give to him?
Well, I think...
Well, you entered the White House in one of the worst times of the U.S. history, the financial crisis, and two ongoing wars, and also the polarization. I can say that President Biden, your vice president and longtime friend, has taken over office in a very similarly difficult time. Like COVID-19, possible economic crisis, and even more polarized Capitol Hill. So is there any advice that you can give to him?
Well, I think he's doing a wonderful job. He has brought into his White House, his administration, many of the same senior aides and staff that worked with the two of us during my presidency. So they have experience and have learned from both our successes and our mistakes during my presidency. And so I think he's doing an excellent job. I agree with you that in both cases we were coming into difficult challenges. The economic challenges are slightly different. The drop in economic activity wasn't quite as severe as it had been because of COVID, but it was actually in some ways more dangerous because the financial system was on the verge of meltdown that could have triggered a Great Depression. Here, what I think we have is a situation where, and the Biden administration is doing the exact right thing, you had essentially the economy have to shut down for a while, but as soon as the public health situation improved, consumers had a lot of money, they didn't have a lot of debt as they did back in 2008, you didn't have a housing bubble like 2008, you didn't have companies and banks that were over leveraged like you did in 2008. So I think the possibility of bouncing back more quickly rather than a long path towards economic recovery, I think is more promising. I think the challenge that he faces politically is similar to what we saw during my administration, and that was the increased unwillingness to see any cooperation between the political parties. And I know that President Biden wants cooperation and to find common ground with the Republicans. But as was true when I was president, they have found it convenient to not cooperate because they think that's the best path for them to return to power. I also think what's changed is the media landscape has gotten even worse than it was. I don't know whether this has happened in Korea, but certainly here in the United States, and also you're seeing this in much of Europe, the growth of right-wing media outlets in the United States like Fox News or talk radio like Rush Limbaugh, and now social media on platforms like Facebook, have created a situation in which a large portion of the country gets its information from a completely different source than traditional news sources. And this is how falsehood that there was something wrong with the election, that Joe Biden somehow had cheated in the election. A significant number of people in America believe that because that's what they're getting from their news sources.
Well, it's really interesting because when the SNS and social media and internet was introduced, everybody believed that it's going to be like a big motivation to improve the grassroots democracy because it opens the door to everybody. But it seems like now it's becoming more of an epicenter of fake news and the mistrust.
Well, I think you're exactly right. Look, I write about this in the book.
Right.
You know, early social media was a very significant tool in helping me get elected because I could communicate with young people all across the country and empower them. I could give them information. They could go out and
Exactly.
organize. We saw in the early days of the Arab Spring, as I write about.
Right.
I think a lot of young activists in places like Tahrir Square were using social media as a way of bypassing, authoritarian, control of the media. But what we have learned is that although it can empower, it can also provide a tool for everything from neo-Nazis to ISIS, anti-Semitic organizations to racist organizations, build their power in ways that are very dangerous. And it can increase polarization within democracies in ways that are also dangerous. So it's something that I think we're going to have to grapple with in every country for some time to come. I think is an ongoing challenge for all democracies. It's possible for us to have strong disagreements on various issues, whether it's taxes or environmental policy or social policy, but so long as we have the same facts, then we can have a useful debate. But when we get into a situation in which one group of voters or elected officials believe something completely different in terms of facts from another, then you start getting significant, difficult conflicts, and it's hard for democracies to resolve those because you start getting enormous mistrust and an inability to communicate effectively across party lines. And that's something that I'm consistently worried about, and that I don't think there's a simple answer to, but we're going to have to find ways in which we can return to a situation in which everyone is operating on one set of facts and there are trusted news outlets that everybody is listening to. Because democracy only works not if everybody agrees with each other, but if at least we have some social trust between each other. Some of what we're seeing on the internet is designed to break down trust rather than to build up trust.